Okay, time for another lesson. We'll move on to lesson number 9, which is a keyboard. Okay, keyboard. That's what you say. Well, we've been using the keyboard, but we need to move on. You know, when we first started out these lessons, we talked about using BASIC to do a lot of things for us until we learned, baby steps to get forward. We did it for like H screen 2 as opposed to doing it ourselves. Getting characters from the keyboard is another example. We'd do that jump subroutine to indirect jump to A00 and let BASIC read the keyboard for us. So it's time to move on in our graphics. We were just starting to get into some graphics, and one of the first things I started to do was put together lesson number 9 was how to select various screen modes. If you look at, you're using BASIC in there, that it lists 5 of them: H screen 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, there's really a lot more than just them 5 selections. And if I may here, I will give you an idea. There's 20 some, okay, and there's 23, 24 here, and there may be more. Okay, the one down here that has the line through it, that's H screen 2, and that's the one we've been using by asking BASIC to do that for us. These other ones you have to do by yourself. Okay, the one I mainly use is this one right here. Okay, it's 256 by 192 by 16. It's a good one. It's smaller. It isn't as high as resolution, but I'll be using that a lot in the future. But the thing was how do you, as a programmer, not have BASIC do that H screen 2, do it yourself, and be able to clear the screen and that. So that's why we're going to do keyboard. And this here should work on a color computer 1 or 2, the routine, but it's mainly for what we're doing is to be able to use it in our programming. I want to elaborate on more. Some of the resolutions on these screens take up a lot of memory. Whenever we do our task 1 that we've been doing in the past, if you look at the MMU, the way it's selected, it will bring that graphics screen in for us, but color BASIC is still left there for at A00 for you to use. And that's why get characters always work for us. And it will continue to work for us if you use lower resolution screens. But if you decide you want to use one of the really high resolution ones, it will be overlaid by the graphic screen. And you may want to, someday when you're really programming and have multiple big screens, that BASIC's not going to be there available for you to use their services. And so therefore they want to use you're going to use the keyboard, you have to have a routine. And mainly use it for when you're doing this kind of stuff. Mine is like you're using for the arrow keys: up arrow key, down arrow key, left or right, or other various ones. And I always use Q to quit, or you can use X to exit, or whatever combination may come up. So we're going to be able to read the keyboard, interpret them, and act on them keys accordingly. Okay, so here's the code. Well, look at the code. This is it, okay? It's a very small program. It's very easy. You can type it in and make a lot of modifications and do a lot of testing on your own. I got in here the includes. I got it asterisked out to show you that it has nothing to do, we haven't used anything in the BASIC. It's just all on our own code in here. But I put that in there to show you we're not using anything here. And another note, run this on a 32 character screen. I'll show you why later. Okay, again, we're arguing at 1000. We've got a switch right down here. Initialize as 0. And up here, we're going to clear it, initialize as 0. When it becomes a 1, we'll exit this program. Here's the routine. Branch subroutine to a routine called in key, the one we're going to write. When it comes back, we're going to test this switch down here. If it's equal to 0, we'll go back through and just go until at some point in time it becomes a 1, then we'll exit and go back to BASIC. That's the main loop, okay? There's a whole lot of words here you can read and understand. If I read it to you and you read it right now, you'd kind of be lost probably. So I'm going to try to back into this. If I bring up this chart here, and this is what we're going to work. This is the keyboard matrix. Okay, so we're going to be able to define how to read the keyboard. It's and I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination on the PIA, the engineers of it and how it works. I know what software works with it, but I don't know how it works. You have to find some other means of understanding that. What we do here is this is in rows and columns, okay? And if we're going to look for a particular key, what we do is we select one of these columns here, okay? Going from left to right here. Let's just use an example, the C down here. If we want to look to see if the C was pressed, we'd use this column here, which is, it's the 0, 1, 2, 3 in here. It's column 3, and we're gonna form it in a register A, 1 byte, and we're gonna use ones and zeros, but we're gonna select column 3. Okay, we're gonna store that in this address recipient F002, selecting this column, and immediately we're gonna read over here F00, and then we're going to look at row 0. This is just this bottom row, and see if it comes back, and we'll see in the code if that key was pressed. If not, we'll go on about our business. Likewise, if we was going to look for a space, we would select column 7, store that, read it, and then check row 3. Confusing? I would imagine, but we'll get there. And that's what all this code in here says, is the same thing. An example here, looking for a T, you'd store this and read this, okay? So here's that same matrix in the program, and here's the loop. Okay, we're going to load up X with FF00, which is the registers we're going to be working with. And the very first one, we're going to look for that space bar, okay? So if I get that into the screen, here's the space bar up here. Okay, that's going to be in column 7, okay? So it's also bit 7 here. So what we're going to do is select it. We'd put ones, the ones we don't want. The one we want, we put a 0 in there. So we've got 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, it equates to a 7F, okay? And we'll store that in 2 off of X, which was our F002. We got FF00 plus 2. We'll store that. Immediately load A, what's at register X, which is this here. And we'll look at, okay, back up here, 3. We'll look at row 3, which is G would be row 0. O would be 1, 2, and space is 3. We'll do a bit A on that, and if it's equal, we found a space bar, and we'll go to a routine called end found space. Okay. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. Looking at the results. That's one way, which is using the bit A. The other one is do a complement, okay, which we'll do basically the same thing. We're going to be looking for a C here. Okay, C is up here again. We look here. It's in column 3, row 0. So we do our 3, store it, read it, and we'll complement A, which means we'll flip all the bits. All the zeros become 1s, and all the 1s become 0s. And then we'll AND A, that for row 0, and if it's not equal, which means that we've got a hit, okay? Because if the 1 is turned on and we're checking it for 1, it means we got hit, we'll go to a place called found C. So there's 2 ways there. One is you can do a bit A on the results that come back, or you complement it. My preferred method of way of doing it is just complement it. Com A and AND it. It just, in my mind, I see it easier when in my mind's eye. I see it better after I complement, but that's up to you. There's 2 ways of doing it. Next example is looking for F1, the F1 key, okay? It's the same as the ones above, you just have to find it in the matrix. It's here. It's in column 5, row 6. And that's all they're looking for the F1, the same thing. Looking for the Q, same way, okay? And last but not least, this is looking for a 6. I just made up a mixture of just ones to use. Okay, and they all went to a place called InFound, whatever the particular one was. Okay, and all it does is if we found a C, remember the matrix doesn't know that it's a C. It's just we found the matrix and we got to interpret it, and we're going to manually do that. So we know it found C. So we load a C up, and we're going to store it on the 32 resolution screen at 407, and branch to found done, which is down here, which goes back to the caller. And that's what each one of these does, is just printed a different character on the screen. Remember, the matrix is a matrix, and if you found something, you go to a place you interpret it. If you want to that routine does it for you. When it comes back, it's either got a C or a Q or whatever the character may be in register A. We're doing that also. We're just going to put it on the screen. The only one that's different is if we find a Q, we'll load up the Q, we'll put it on the screen. We'll also increment that switch and go to done and go back up to the top to our loop. Comes back. If it finds out that it is a 1, it's not equal to 0, bang, return back to basic, we're done. That's the whole program. You can type this, any one of these routines here, and like this here routine, and change it any way you like and play with it and work with the keyboard, and that's it. That's all this routine does. It doesn't do very much. Okay, and down here I have example 2. Okay, and I added this too. You may want to, for whatever reasons, see this here. Argot 1100 hex. Load up our F, and we're going to be looking for a Q in this one also. Okay, same thing. Column number 1. Store it, load it, complement it, and now we're going to do AND A with all 1s. We're going to see if any key is pressed, any key in that column whatsoever. If it's equal to 0, means no key was pressed. Go back through the loop. Okay, if a key was pressed, we're going to check to see if it's a Q, and then we'll fall and get out of there. Just want to show you a different way you can test for all the keys at one time in that particular column. What you use it for, it's up to you. Experiment with it. These are easy to type in and experiment and try. Okay, so this is very simple, but we're going to need it at some point in time where you don't have BASIC to help you, and that's what the routine is. So if I can go back over to, if I can bring up my BASIC. There we go. I've already got it loaded in, and we're going to execute it. Remember, 32 character screen, because if you did this on a 80 character screen, you wouldn't see anything. Okay. Now I just hit enter, and it's sitting there. It's waiting for us to press a key. It just keeps going through the loop. Nothing was entered. Go through the loop. So I'm going to hit the T key. Nothing happens. The Y. Nothing happens. So I hit the space bar, and it puts an S on the screen. I remember I said we'd put something on the screen, and that was it. I hit the 6. We'll put that on there. If I hit an L, nothing. If I hit the F1 key, puts a 1 there. What was that one? Was a C. Puts a C in. The only other one is a Q, and when I hit the Q, it's going to put a Q on the screen and exit. And here's the Q. Okay? That's the 5 of them we programmed in. So, again, nothing. We do F1, C, space, 6, Q, done. The other thing we did was the one at 1100. I think I'm printing on the screen. This is one you'll be losing a lot in your programs. Okay, when you're just looking for a key, it's sitting there. I'm sitting here. Space. I'm hitting all kinds of keys on too, and nothing happens until I hit the Q key and it exits. Okay, that's the one you may use. Well, if you left arrow, right, or up, down, you can imagine what you could use these for. That's what this whole lesson was about. No more, no less. It was just preparing us to whenever we do get to the next lesson of looking at these various screens. We're going to test I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these different modes, and we want to be able to read a key and exit. I don't know if you noticed in most of the stuff I've done, in fact, all the stuff I've done, the way I do it, most of my stuff, not most, all of my stuff, is I like to exit cleanly. Just 40 years of schooling, I like to come in, set up, initialize the system, everything I want to do all the stuff I want to do, and at exit time, restore it back to the way it was when I come in, exit. I don't have to hit a reset switch or turn something off or reboot VCC or reboot mess. Exit cleanly and it's back exactly it was where I started. Okay, so therefore that's why I say we need to get the system to where we can do that and use these different modes and get back out of here cleanly. That's, I guess that's my story for the day. I know it wasn't no graphics. I know it isn't exciting, but it's something that you need to learn. So it's a good one to sit and play with and change and look at the different matrix. I put nothing in there. I can get back to quit talking here. Get back to this chart. Has nothing to do with the shift key. It's mainly because you're going to mainly look at these bottom 3 rows, 4 rows here. You're mainly looking for A to Z, right, left, up and down, space bar. The enter keys up here, and these other ones with the slashes. Okay, the one on the right, like here's this one. You have to have a shift key to get the exclamation point. If you don't, you're just going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the ones you're going to use. You're not going to be typing in paragraphs and for word processing that. Then there's nothing to do with joystick. You can find lots of information. Maybe we'll do something much later on about joystick. Reading it, the fire buttons, etc., like that. But there's also a lot of stuff. If you look in the Color Computer Archive, you can find sample code in there for different things like that. This is mainly just to be able to get some characters and acting them characters, and that's what should just about do it. If I can. I can't think of anything else I wanted to explain in this here. It's just a very simple. So next one we'll look at some graphic screens. So until then, have fun playing with it. That's it.